Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, that's pretty good, but let's take it up. Let's ratchet it up one more. Good morning.
Good morning.
People on the other side, who is that? What are they doing? What a great session today. I can tell just by looking at your bright, shining faces that you avoided Thursday night, right? You said, no, next week, guys. Derry told me, be sharp today. So, congratulations, congratulations. Okay, what are we going to do today? Today is learn how to persuade others. This is the basic, fundamental session to understand it. Why? The one thing you're going to get today is how to understand more about yourself. Because if you understand more about yourself, and you can put your arms around yourself, Mr. Lemon? Lemon. Put your arms around yourself and say, oh, what a great person. Only then, to the degree to which you can like yourself and love yourself, can you look out at others and do the same. So this is the structure today. To understand, the second structure, to understand, this is me. This is how I do what I do. That's okay. I'm great. Now I have strengths and I have limitations, but I'm great. So today I'm going to ask you to adopt this system of behavior from this point forward as your mechanism for understanding why people do what they do. If you do that, what happens? Your confidence goes up. Your ability to build sound relationships goes up. And with this brings you peace. Because you never have to go through another, why is he doing this to me? What's going on here? Now you have a structure for how to use your intelligence more and your emotions less. You ready? So let's start with our discussion last time. We ended with this, we had this discussion last time. That is, have you ever met someone you didn't like? Oh, hold on. I have to go through everybody. Names first. Mr. Ritter. Frechette. Simmons. Epley. Remember, if I can't remember your names, not you, it's me. Peace. Taylor, Wink, King. Oh, darn it. Yes, Chris Derry. Mr. Kemp. Mr. Kemp. Can't remember.
Haga.
Mr. Haga. Ah, yes, Mr. Haga. You're a gas. Ingram, Lunsford, Frazier, Puckett, Peggy, Hodgins, Ambrose. Oh my goodness gracious, why isn't it popping in? Oh, Gowans. God, Gowans. This is Lemon, this is McGregor, Bud, Sikora. This is Heatherly, and this is Mac. Mr. Mac. This is Waller, Armstrong, and Roan, and Lewis. Okay. I'll do it next time. I'll make sure someone will remind me if I forget, because I'm going to get them all before I go forward. Now let's start today with this question. Have you ever met anyone you didn't like? Oh, Mr. Kent, you weren't here before. Have you ever met anyone you didn't like? Ooh, did you hear that? Okay. Non-words. Mr. Mac and female. Single. Practice just once. Does he understand? Oh, turn it over. All right. Non-words are those words that interfere with direct communication. They are like, right. So, we've all agreed in this class that we're going to work our very best to get rid of them, right? We're all agreed. You on board?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, my question is, did you ever meet someone you didn't like?
Not technically.
Not technically. In your life, you've never met anyone you said, oop.
Not if I give him a chance.
Oh, what a good response. The system I'm going to talk about here is an alternate system to yours. If you've got one that works, use it. The system I'm going to introduce is how to watch people, how to watch how they act, and be able to predict what they're going to do to give yourself more confidence. So that's where we're going with this. And we also said last time, yes, we've met people we didn't like, and we tend to avoid them because we don't understand them. Because of a lot of different reasons. We just said, ah, I'm done. On the other hand, as salespeople, as consumers, have you ever bought something from someone you didn't like? Umbrella, that's a good one. It'll take you a while.
Not that I can think of.
I mean, not a used car or someone at the mall who tries to foist something on you. You never done it?
No.
Have you ever gone into a place and bought something because the price was low and gutted through the salesperson?
Most likely.
Okay. So, but normally, we buy things from people we like. So by definition, this model is intended to help you be likable to everyone. It just takes practice. And the only thing is, if you want to be successful in persuasion, this is one of these models that you can use that will progressively help you persuade better. Now, those of you that are taking notes can now start taking notes. This model started with a psychologist in 1923 called William Marston, M-A-R-S-T-O-N. Marston wrote a book in 1923 called The Emotions of Normal People. This is important. This is not Freud studying about abnormal psychology. This is Marston, who said in the same decade as Freud, I want to try to understand the behaviors of normal people. And out came Marston's model. This was so powerful a model that, well, it came out of his work to create a lie detector. Marston was the inventor of the lie detector. We put little electrodes on you, and you're out of your body reactions, they can tell whether you're lying or not. Out of that came this model. And then he created a cartoon character called Wonder Woman, and got rich doing that, selling comic books. This model, once you get the model and you watch television from now on, you'll be able to see how the directors and the producers create all these sitcoms, because all they play off is this model. Marston said, all behavior can be explained first by dividing that behavior into two hemispheres. He said the extent to which people respond to tasks versus relationships. Some people are more task-oriented, some people are more relationship-oriented. Then he said if you divide that quadrant in half between whether they pursue those relationships actively or passively. If people are if you're task-oriented, now everyone has all of these behaviors in them in varying intensities. So if you are task-oriented and you pursue those tasks actively, Marston called this D for dominance, or decisiveness. If you are pursuing tasks, but you do it passively, he called this C for compliance. If you pursue relationships actively, he called this influencing. And if you pursue those relationships passively, he called this steady. This model has become known as the DISC model. And when you answered the questionnaire, you answered 1, 2, 3, 4. Am I most like or least like? You said I'm most like this and least like this. Now, in your report, which I want you to pull out now, if you'll turn to page... Page 8. At the bottom part of the page, you're going to see a graph that looks like this. You're going to see two graphs. You're going to look at most and least. And today we're going to talk about least because the least graph conveys your natural style. It's you at home, with your family. When you're not thinking of it, it's the real you show to your friends and your family. It's also the style that you convey when you're under pressure. Instinctively, when you do something, you do it right out of your basic style. Now the question is, here's the energy line. Are you intense or this is an intensity scale, low intensity to high intensity on each one of these factors. Everyone's behavior is a function of these 4 factors in different levels of intensity. Now let's describe each of the factors. D. The D factor is the problem factor. This is the extent to which a person carries around a hammer all day long looking to bang things. Okay? If your D is high, it means you like to hit nails, screws, tacks, heads. You are solving problems. When someone describes something to you, you're thinking, what's the problem? How do we solve it? This is your natural behavior. Is this good or is this bad? Mr. Heatherly?
Depends.
It depends. If you're high in D, in the D factor, you think that high D stuff is good. That's your problem. Other people don't think it's good. Sometimes. Now, the emotion attached to decisiveness or dominance is anger. It doesn't mean you're angry, but it appears to people that you're intense. So when someone that has a high D factor comes in, or a professor that has a high D factor, he says, got your homework done? Why didn't you do your homework? It sounds like he's mad, right? No. It's just this D factor. D's walk around banging on things with the hammer all the time, indiscriminately. What D's factors want, if you're high in this one, you want better results. Write that down. Better results, better results, better results, better results, every day. If you say to someone with a high D factor, I got that done, she'll say, sure, okay, now I want you to do this. You think to yourself, Mr. Ambrose, well, I just did that for you. Aren't you happy last year? Oh, yeah. Now do it again. If you're low in the D, it just means that you have a hammer, but you tap lightly. You want to solve problems, but there are other intensities in your behavior that are more important to you. Questions on the D factor? What kinds of actors or actresses in the movies you think about possess this strong D factor?
Angelina Jolie.
I was thinking of the same one. Tomb Raider, she's swinging across and doing this and kicking and doing, that's the whole high D stuff. From my generation, you ever watch any of the old John Wayne movies? John Wayne, you know, like this all the time. Yeah, this is what we're gonna do. You can see that high D behavior. Cocksure, aggressive, in your face. Now, if someone with this high D factor gets gets nose to nose, D's pretty high. Oh, with Mr. Peggy, D factor does this. Nervous, aren't you?
A little bit.
A little bit. The lower the D, the more the intensity bothers him. If the D is high, the D just says, what? You want to fight? You want to go toe to toe? Because two high D factors together are like barnyard dogs. And they like the whole affair. Now someone with a low D factor that watches it thinks, what are you doing? Well, it's just what high D factors do. Questions on the D. Now, do we label people whom we see with this high D factors as high Ds? There's a tendency to do that simply. It is not altogether accurate, and I'll show you. But it's a simple way of identifying these behaviors. I factor. The I factor is the people factor. This is the intensity. The higher you are in the scale, on graph 2, the natural style, the more you want to interact with people. If you're low in the I factor, it just means that you don't like to interact one-on-one. You don't like to talk. People with a low I factor send texts. Now think about this in a relationship. The high I guy and the low I girl. And the girl wants to break up. She texts. We're done. I don't have to go through that anymore. Walks away. The high I guy goes, no! My whole life tells all his friends, oh, you know what, and you know, all these things. And what people in the high I factor want is they want people to like them. They hate it when people don't. So they go around all day long being nice to people. Hey, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? That's high I stuff. Now low I's look at that and they say, get away. See, when, on the people factor, if you're above the line, it means that when you are engaged with other people, it brings you energy. People who are low in the I factor, it takes away their energy to talk. Now they will talk to you only when what you're talking about appeals to whom? Them. You got it. The emotion attached to the I is emotion. You can see it. If you talk to them, they're excited or they're sad. You'll see the emotion on their face. These two characteristics, the D and the I, are easy to see. Why? Because they're active. Examples of high I people in the movies. TV. All right, Mr. Lewis. Example.
I don't have one.
I'll think about what's the last movie you saw. What's your favorite sitcom? Jim Carrey. See? What's another one? Think about it. Adam Sandler, big high I, right? Goofy. See, what producers do is they get people to perform in these roles, but they get them to perform on the roles on steroids, so it's easy to see them. So the high D is one of my wife's favorite sitcoms. I wish I could show you, but there's way too much sex in it. It's Sex in the City. Okay, my wife loves it. So she knows every episode, knows what they do. And for those of you who watch Sex in the City, who's the D?
Samantha.
What?
Samantha.
Samantha. Right? Big in your face, you know, doing this, all that sort of stuff. That's the D. Who's the I?
Charlotte. Charlotte.
Uh,
Charlotte. Carrie.
Carrie. What? Carries her emotions right here. You know, she's happy, she's sad. She's happy, she's sad. Charlotte's coming up.
Oh, okay.
She's right here. Questions on the I and the D. Got those two? The objective is for you to understand this and be able to watch and look out and identify behavioral characteristics. Mr. Armstrong, got a high D that's your favorite in the movies? Here's how you do it. Your voice box is opening up before your brain's engaging. So all you have to do is shut your voice box, take a second, pause, and then say it right. Mark Wahlberg. In your face. Who else?
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman. Actually, Morgan Freeman is probably, he's a great actor. He can play lots of different roles. The best person to play those multiple roles are coming up. It's the dominant S factor. So let's hold off this discussion. Let's go through all four of them and then we'll go through some examples. Now the S factor. The S factor represents the pace of the environment. So if you're high in the S, it means you prefer a slow, steady pace. If you're low in the S, it means you prefer a fast pace. This is doing things one at a time, high in the S. This is multitasking down here. People who are down here in the S can't stand not multitasking. If they're on the phone, they've got to be doing something else. Frustrates the dickens out of people who have high S's. What's the emotion attached to the S factor? Remember, now we're talking about passive. It's a passive way to seek relationships. The emotion is no emotion. In control. People that have this strong S factor, and if your S factor is the number one factor on graph 2, raise your hand. Okay, now I'm going to talk about you guys. It's tied, that's right, it's still right at the top. People that have a high S factor, and this is Mr. Lunsford, okay, don't like conflict. They want things to go well. They have great relationships from grade school, still have friends from grade school. They get a good friend, they keep them. That means they keep adding to the relationship. They really care about people. Now, when D's, the emotion attached to D's is anger. So when they get angry, you see it. Out it comes. Not the S factor. Here's what happens with S factors. You get up in the morning, go out to your car. I'm going to make some things up because I don't know you. Your roommate used the car last night and left the door open. Battery's dead. You get in the car. Now, who has a high D factor here? Mr. Simmons? Oh, Mr. Ritter. Mr. Ritter says, "Ah, God," and explodes. Well, I told him the door's open. They even call him on the phone. They shout out, "Hey, you left it." Okay? Gets it right out. Mr. Lunsford says, "Oh, man, what am I going to do? I got this to do. I could be late on this." And instead of getting it out, he takes what that feeling and puts it in his gunny sack. Not going to get upset. He gets a tow truck, gets a jump, gets on his way. On the way, a guy cuts in traffic. Mr. Ritter is road rage. Hey, you! But not Mr. Lunsford. Mr. Lunsford goes, oh, you should do that. Instead of getting mad in the gunny sack. This is a bad day for Mr. Lunsford. So he gets to his classroom, usually sits there, there's somebody there. People with a high S factor are possessive. Like, this is where I sit. But would they accost a person and say, you know, I sit there? No, he'll go over here and sit, but he's unhappy about it. Okay, he puts that in the gunny sack, and then his best friend says, you know, and then it's end of the day, you know, he's so upset, and somebody says one thing, you go, rah, 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 this happened, and that happened, rah. And after that, how do you feel?
Better.
Much better. So, each of these factors, if you just watch them, if you understand them, then you can manage their reactions. I had an assistant. I hired an assistant years ago, and I wanted someone who was a high I and a high S. I wanted someone who was patient, methodical, pleasant on the telephone, and I knew about this gunny sacking, we call it. So every Tuesday morning, I'd take her to Cracker Barrel for breakfast, and I'd say, Joan, how are things going? She'd say, oh, they're going wonderful. Oh, they're not. So I'd say, well, if there was a problem going on, what would it be? She said, well, there are no problems. I know there are. She's upset with me. I said, well, if there was ever a problem last week, if you were ever upset, what was that about? Well, it's not that big a deal. It's when you did this, then it forced me to do that. Oh, I didn't realize that. Thank you for telling me. Then I'll do this differently. How do you feel when that occurs, Mr. Lunsford? Understanding, I feel better. So you take it out of the gunny sack and you put it back on the table. Make sure the gunny sack is empty, because then life looks good. Questions on the S factor? Oh, we haven't gone down to the bottom. Low S. This is drive, get it done. Loves multiple activities at the same time. Who has an S all the way at the bottom? Okay, Miss Taylor. Did your mother tell you don't listen worth a darn?
Yep.
Yeah. Low S's listen for what they want to hear, not for what's being said. So if you have a low S in a friend, and you say, you don't listen to me, you don't listen to me, you don't listen to me, what does she hear? Quit beating up on me. I'm no good at this. So if you understand that, then you can say, and I'll say this in class, Miss Taylor,
Yes.
got her attention. Now she'll listen. But a minute from now, she'll be thinking about something else. Right?
Probably.
We got the S factor. Any questions on it? Now the C factor. C stands for compliance. And this is, if you're high in the C factor, complies to rules set by others. If you're low in the C, it means complies to rules set by yourself. So this is maverick, and this is do it the way it's supposed to be done. Which is better? Neither is better, but as Mr. Heatherly says, it depends. Now, if your C is low, if your C is really low, how many C's are below 10? Raise your hands. None of them? Not one? Okay. The C is below 10. The person doesn't care about details. They're not good with details, and they don't care. I'm not good at it, so beat me up. Get it done. I had a salesperson who was in this class several years ago that's working in Louisville. This is her worst enemy. When three of these factors are high and one of the factors is low, it double emphasizes the lower factor. It says she is indifferent, she is really indifferent. Now let's begin to use these four factors and bring out how the dominant personality tendencies in a person. Ready? Who wants to be the first guinea pig? Mr. I'll get it. Mr.
Cheese.
Cheese.
Trucks.
Trucks. Cheese.
Blank and cheese.
Apple. It's not a PC, it's a.
It's a Mac. Thank you.
It's a can.
Let me, oh, you can just read them to me. Just read me the numbers on graph 2.
The natural style?
Yep.
Okay. 45,
45.
63.
Who's clicking?
I did my best.
Okay. 60, 65
67, 30, and 27.
and 27. Now let's look. This is an intensity scale. The further these guys are apart, the more you see the behavior. So dominant behavior in Mr. Mac. Patient to get things done his way. This is called persistence. When you make your mind up, if someone disagrees with you, you tend to do this. You disagree with them? What does that mean? It means I'm listening to you. Doesn't mean I agree. Because this low C says, yeah, but I know, I appreciate what you're saying. The I and the S are high, so this is a relationship orientation. He pours a lot of his energy in building strong relationships. Good talker, see, good talker, good listener. But it's muted. It doesn't have a lot of passion in it. If the S were really high and the C were really low, this would mean he was persistent to a fault. He wouldn't change. Now, once you've made your decision, Mr. Mack, awfully difficult to change. Now, that is a strength. But at the back end of every strength is a limitation. And that means that sometimes you cling to ideas that don't work. And you don't change just because you don't want to change, even though you have a sense that you should change. You're just slow to do it. Number 2, the I versus the C. This is persuading people to your point of view. We call this displayed self-confidence. So there's a moderate degree here of you being passionate, of being persuasive. Once you have decided what you want to do, then you can become very persuasive. Now, how does he persuade? Is he pushy? Or does he have a smile on his face? When the D goes below the I, this is the intensity of the D. When it comes down and the I's high, the smile emerges. If the D's above the I, serious. So he has a moderate degree here of goodwill, and then we see the D over the C. This is getting things done your way. So this is why you want to build strong relationships. If you disagree and want to do things your own way, you don't say, no, I'm not doing that. You say, and you go do whatever you want to do. Right?
So you create a false persona kind of thing?
Exactly. One of the limitations of your style is the false persona. So what can you do about that? You can get into the habit of saying something that's easy when you disagree. You can say, you know, I have a different opinion on that. What that really means is I disagree. But it's a verbiage that an IS can use to be able to communicate clearly. Questions? Who's next? Mr. Budd.
42, 52, 57.
42. Oh, sorry. 42, 52,
57
57,
and 55.
and 55. All right. Again, when they're not very far apart, typically it means that the person is moderate. It means that you don't show these behavioral tendencies intensively. So that number 1 is being patient. steady to get things done. We call this patience. I didn't talk about this also, Mr. Mack, but patience is big on yours too. Just didn't address it. Number one factor is listening. Listening completely. Fashioning your questions. And if someone asks you to make a decision like that, you resist. Because you want to think about it. You want to think about all the questions, and then when you have your questions, then you'll go, I got this question, and then this one, and this one, and this one. Methodical in how you analyze a situation. You prefer, with that dominant S, to do things one at a time. You want to start one thing, finish it. Start another one, finish it. Is that how college works? No. See, college is tough on the dominant S because you've got multiple assignments at the same time. So when you feel dominant S's, when you feel this notion of, oh, stress is coming, most often it's because you've got way too much on your plate and you're confused about which one to do first. Dominant S's, raise your hand. Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah, it's true. Low S's, bring it on, man. Do this one first, then this one, then this one, then this one. I don't get that one done, not doing it. Now, this is the ISC style, Mr. Budd, is the most common American style. This means exude goodwill, smile, be nice to people, be methodical, and make sure that you do things that are appropriate, the way they're supposed to be done, and if you disagree, listen first. Always do things that emphasize high quality. Is that you?
Yes.
Questions on this one? Now, let's go through a little exercise here. Let's see. A movie. Let's don't do that. I'm trying to think about how to give you an exercise to understand. Oh, let's do one thing. Okay. How do these styles do typical things like mow the lawn? People with the Heidi Factor, how do they mow? Fast! And my neighbor across the street, years ago, I was talking to him about mowers. He's a big Heidi. I said, what mower should I get? He said, I said, get a John Deere. He said, they'll run over anything organic. So the Heidi Factors run over and it goes, clink, clink. My wife says, oh no, what happened? I see. I said, no worry, it's just a stick. Chew it up. When you run over metal, that's different. Oh, I don't like to do that. So I look out for metal and run over the wood. So high D's, what's their idea in mowing the lawn? Who are high D factors in here? Okay, when you mow the lawn, what's the idea? Get it done, get it short. How about eyes? High eye factors? Raise your hands. How do you like to mow? Headphones. La, la, you gotta have fun, right? Over here, then over here. You have a good time, because you like to have a good time whatever you do. Right? You're not having a good time, like, why do it? How about the S factor? Dominant S's. How do you mow? How do you mow, Mr. Mack?
Just slow and steady.
Slow and steady. Do it this way, then you do this one, then you do this one, then you do this over here. Once you've got it down, you do it the same way every time. Why?
Because it's persistent.
Yeah, because it gets done, meets my satisfaction. It's how I do it. Is the fact that Mr. Ritter does it fast and furiously versus Mr. Mack, who is very methodical, is one better than the other? No. Now, it does depend upon how the owner of the property wants it mowed. So if the blade's not sharp, and I get this all the time from my wife, the blade's not sharp and I cut the lawn, she looks at it and she says, the blade is tearing the grass, not clipping it. I'm like, oh my God. So she gets it out, she runs over it again slowly. Okay, knock yourself out. And I love her to death, but this is just the way that a D does it and a C does it. Now, how does a C mow the lawn? What's a C do first? No, what's a C do last after the lawn is cut? Any dominant Cs? What do they do? What do they analyze? Analyze the grass, what else? Right. Keep coming. Lines are, they gotta be very straight, high quality. How about the mower? Clean it up,
Oil it.
but you're low C. Are you a high C? And you don't maintain your mower? Where's your D? Really? So you don't worry about maintenance? Odd. Most C's, now just when I say odd, see what C's hate is criticism, right? So when I say odd, he goes, oh God, he said that. Oh, but everybody's gonna think I'm. So C's tend to want high quality. The dominant emotion for C is worry. This is anger on the B, worry is on the C. Mr. Rohn, what do you worry about? Really? Your following policy is strong for you, consistent for you. So when you do a task and you want to do it in the very best way, how do you go about doing that? What's the emotion that is involved in making sure you do it in the highest way it's supposed to be done?
Yeah.
And along with that, now first of all, worry is not bad. Worry for C's causes them to do it in a very high quality way.
Well, I can take it back, the more you go with somebody else
Do you notice it?
wants to be done.
Yes.
Just tell you about myself. Don't worry about it.
Exactly, I worry about others, not myself, because I know myself, I'm always going to do it the highest quality way, right? Why? Hates to be criticized. So on C's, the one thing that the back end to this strong quality of delivering high quality is worrying too much. And so the solution for that is when the worry emerges, to ask yourself, can I do something about that? Can I impact that? And if you can't impact it, you say, heck with it. I'm not going to worry about it because I can't do anything about it. Not to worry about it. So one C, I had a session years ago. He sat right here. And I said, what do you do after you finish mowing? He said, I wax the mower. I'll tell you, I did that, I laughed, I offended him. I didn't mean to. You wax it? My C is low. I would never wax a mower, I don't wax my car. Wax a mower, and I stopped myself. I said, whoa, this is critical. Yeah, I wax it, why? Because when I go out, I also had a really high aesthetic from last session. A high aesthetic which says I want it to look good. I want to feel good on the mower. So you want it to look good. C's will check the oil, make sure the gas is filled up. My high C wife says, did you take the broom and get the grass off the mower outside the garage? Yeah, that's a good practice. But I do that now, I just run it in and run it out. Well, when you run it back out, then there's grass on the floor that she has to clean up. So I get it, okay, I go outside, before I put it in, I brush all the grass off. If I brush it underneath, no! Does she want me to? Yes! So let's do a couple more. Who's next? Good. Well, just read me the numbers. 27, 35, 73, and 73. Now let's take a look at dominant tendencies. 1, the high S, low D, we talked about with Mr. Mack and Mr. Bud. That is, be patient to get things done. Not patient?
Yeah. So these characteristics I have, very.
When you do things, do you like to multitask, or do you like to kind of do things one at a time to make sure they're done?
I don't like. Well, I guess I kind of scatterbrain sometimes a little bit.
What I would predict is you would prefer to do things one at a time, but all the things that you have to do force you to multitask. The preference is to do them one at a time. The issue here is for you to compare your sense of urgency versus Mr. Ritter's. And if you guys were going to talk to each other, his D would drive your C nuts. He'd interrupt you. You don't like to be interrupted. And he would change the subject in the middle of a sentence, right? When the D goes high, high D says, what's important in this conversation is important to me, and it ought to be important to you.
Well, if it's not appealing to me, then I change the subject up.
And how do you change the subject? In the middle of the sentence or after the sentence?
I already finished.
Where it finishes. The D in the middle of the sentence. Oh, what did you say there? No, that's crazy. I wouldn't do that. You're crazy. Not the S. The S is patient, is thoughtful, asks, thinks through, develops really good questions. The C over the D is get things done in a non-pushy way. For you to get what you want, you think through in advance. I need to get this, and 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 this. Is that how you do it, Mr. Ritter? No. He says, let's get this done. Oh, forgot that. Oh, get that one over there. Oh, I forgot that one. The high D's ask for forgiveness, not permission. Next, the high C over the low I. This is called perfectionism. This is called getting things done and being unemotional. You do your best work in your room, by yourself, and when you go out, this is not that you don't like people, but you like people that you like, that you have good relationships with. And you can build new relationships, but you do it, you're careful to do it. And if you go into a bar, you typically want to go in with some of your friends and not by yourself. CD, we got that one. This is being more focused on details and being non-aggressive to get those details accomplished. Questions? Now let's do another one. How do the particular styles hail a taxi?
What did you say?
Hail a taxi. New York City. Ms. Taylor, you're going to hail a taxi. How do you do it?
Probably like stick my hand out in the middle of the road.
What do you do?
Wave and yell.
Hey! Hey, taxi, stop! Right?
Yeah.
That's the high D factor. How about high I's? Who's a high I? Okay, Ms. Burchett, how do you do it?
Taxi!
Taxi! Taxi! Smile on the face, get their attention, right? Stop! Stop! High S factors.
Tax?
That's okay, less muted. But in New York City, the dominant S's have figured it out. You know what they do?
They stop, they learn from the car.
That's the D. The D walks in. Stop! Right. The S looks at the consequences and says, no, I could get run over. And I don't want to make anybody mad. And I don't want to upset the taxi driver, right? So where's the best way? What's the best way to get a cab? Let's ask Mr. Rowe.
Stop.
If he stopped, that's good. That's always good for getting his action. But what's the best way for you, high C? Ask whom?
That's the girl.
How?
Or somebody else is getting in if they want it first.
Okay, that's good. I'm gonna make a suggestion to him. Call ahead. See? Call ahead. Make sure that they're there when you want them. This,
See, that's the part where I just don't worry if it becomes time to bed and
if you were in New York City, you would learn soon that the way to get from point A to point B in the shortest distance is to call ahead. So you just have to walk out of the building, you walk right in, no fuss, no muss, in you go, out you go. Easy. High D's, can't worry about that. They'll just steal one from somebody else. They say, hey, look out over there! Get in the cab, shut it, go, boom! Off they go.
I'm more important than you.
Exactly, they're more important. You got it, Mr. Mack. They're more important than you, are they? No, but they think they are.
Their task is more important.
Exactly. They think their tasks are more important. So what does an S do? Get a cab, get a taxi. You go to the taxi stand, wait in line. Do it ahead of time. I got this much time. I know it takes this much time. Get the cab and off you go. No muss, no fuss. Let's do another one. Who's ready? It's Taylor.
Okay, I got
Hold on. See? D's already high. Won't wait till I erase these.
65,
65,
73,
73,
35, and 35.
35, 35, and 35. So now, somebody debrief this. Dominant factor. Help me out. Highest versus lowest. The high I is
Emotional.
gas. Help us out here.
Emotional.
Emotional, very outgoing, enthusiastic. So this is persuading others. Right. We call this displayed self-confidence. This means that when you want what you want, you're persuasive. You know, you're passionate.